sentimental for some reason lately. I don't know why or what it is, but you know, I used to film videos sitting just like this, yelling at my family to keep it quiet outside because I'm filming a video. The number of times I'd have to cut out me yelling out the door in high school, being like, guys, shut up, I'm filming a video. The number of edits I had to make to cut that out. You guys had no idea what I was dealing with. I was dealing with people who did not understand the concept of good audio. But yeah, we've kind of come full circle, except for instead of talking about clothes I bought at the mall and, you know, how to talk to boys and things like that, I'm actually sitting here talking to you guys about money today. How I manage my money, how I make my money, all my revenue streams, how I save money, how I budget, all those things I'm going to talk about today. I've kind of held off on talking about this particular subject just because I feel like talking about money sometimes can come across as braggy or just kind of opens the floor for a lot of hate and a lot of criticism and stuff like that. So I've kind of steered away from it. I just thought it wasn't necessary to talk about. But I've realized, you know, kind of over the years, or I mean, even in the past like 5 months of being a freelancer, I've had so many questions about finances, and I've been struggling to find the right videos of people being super honest and open in my field about money. And so I thought that I would dip my toe and make a video today about money, about saving, about spending, and all that stuff, and just see how it goes. Freelance is something I've gotten so many questions about recently, especially as people are getting either laid off or furloughed or living paycheck to paycheck and want to make some extra cash. Even seniors in college that are about to graduate and are kind of unsure about their career path and if people are hiring and want to kind of start out with freelance or something like that. I thought that videos like this would be super helpful. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of things, I do want to share that this video is sponsored by Empower, which is my all-time favorite money management app. It's super easy to budget on there, to overall just save money and really be aware of where you're spending. It really keeps an eye on your money and makes sure nothing fishy is going on. And overall, I use it to track all of my budgets. Stay tuned for more on that. But first off, I do want to start out with just kind of laying out all of my different revenue streams. I have 8 different revenue streams. And actually, when I was brainstorming this video yesterday, I had no idea that I had 8 different revenue streams. Of course, I know where my money comes from and what I work on, but for some reason I didn't think that it was 8. I thought it was like 4 or 5, but I actually have 8 different places that my money comes from, which is super interesting. I'm gonna kind of breeze through these because I have a lot more to talk about. But if you guys have any specific questions about each of these things, please let me know. I'm also planning on doing a full video on my freelancing and how I get my clients, how I do all that and manage my money there. So stay tuned for that. But first, I just want to kind of lay out all of them. So the first one is YouTube sponsorships, where I work with brands on videos. You guys are probably aware of YouTubers working with brands and having sponsored videos, and that's a huge chunk of my income. And I work with my manager. I'm pretty sure I've talked about my management before, but I'm with Matter Media Group. They're based out in LA, and I've been with my manager Abigail since I was like 17, I think, or something like that, like when I was super young. So I've been working with her for quite some time on my YouTube sponsorship. She also helps with my Instagram and my podcast, which I'll get into. So the second one, also in the realm of YouTube, is YouTube monetization. So when a video has ads on it, when it's monetized, the money I make off of my monetized videos actually goes right into my pocket. My manager does not take a cut of that because it isn't something that she technically brought me. She brings me a deal and takes 20% of that deal's commission because she works to set it up. She does the legal behind it. She helps me communicate with the brand and really gets it off the ground. So that's kind of how that works, just a little Spark Notes version. My third revenue stream is Instagram brand deals. So when I work with a company on a post or a story or posts and stories, things like that. My fourth revenue stream is podcast related. So my podcast ad reads is my fourth revenue stream. Basically, whenever I post a podcast, most episodes, not every episode, but most episodes, I have about 1 to 2 ad reads where I work with a brand to talk about their product, you know, offer a promo code. You guys have probably heard them if you listen to podcasts. Basically, everyone does it now. And so that is a decent chunk of my revenue as well. So those are my first 4 sources of income, which are all kind of under the influencer umbrella, which I hate using the word influencer. You guys know I hate that word, but it kind of has taken over as like the word to describe what we do. So those are the first 4 income streams. The next 4 are all freelancing related, which I get so excited talking about. I'm gonna try to contain my excitement and talk more about freelancing in my next video because I could just do a whole like 45-minute video on freelancing. Believe me, there's so much involved. Like I said, gonna keep it short but sweet. Okay, so my 5th revenue stream is freelance video. That kind of encompasses editing and filming, or just filming or just editing, just really anything video related. And I work with so many clients on this, a lot more than you guys probably see from your end, because I don't post a lot about my freelance. I post a little bit. Honestly, I post more than a lot of freelancers do, I would say, but I do kind of keep some projects under wraps just because of, you know, privacy, or they haven't gone live yet, things like that. Basically, people will hire me to shoot video content for them, sometimes edit it, sometimes just the video content. And a lot of times people will just send me video content and I'll edit it for them and charge an hourly rate for that. For most of my freelance stuff, I charge hourly. It has taken me some time to come up with my hourly rate, which I'll talk more about in my next video. But yeah, so freelance video is number 5. Number 6 is freelance graphic design. So this is a whole different kind of thing. So under graphic design is, you know, website banners, email graphics, just really any graphics, like Instagram graphics. And it's actually one of my favorite things, I think, to do freelance. I did a lot of it at L'Oreal, and that's kind of how I realized that I wanted to be a graphic designer. So number 7 is freelance hand lettering, which you guys know I'm obsessed with. You guys probably already know about my tattoo designing, but I also do hand lettering for a bunch of different people. I just did some hand lettering for Fossil. I recently just did some lettering for a movie producer / director that's going in a feature film, which is very exciting. I've also done some lettering for RSVPs, for weddings. Basically what happens is people just contact me with a dream and I'm like, okay, we're gonna make this happen, and I make it happen. And then my 8th revenue stream is actually brand new. I just started this about 2 weeks ago, and I've done a couple of different clients for this, which is freelance brand kits. Like I said, really new, so I'm still getting the hang of this and my pricing and all that stuff, but basically I really do have a good aesthetic vision, I think, for different brands, and I help brands come up with their colors, with their fonts, with their logos, things like that. Like I said, super new, and I'm like just very slowly rolling it out, but it's another way that I'm making money, so that's cool. 8 different streams. Have no idea how that happened, but I think it's super important to have a lot of different revenue streams. Enough that you can manage, like don't overwork yourself by any means, but it's definitely important to have multiple different places you get money, just because, you know, if something happens to one of them, you have a backup plan. So basically those are all of my revenue streams, and my goal for 2020, or I guess it was my goal, it probably still will be my goal, but things are a bit crazy now, of course, is to have more passive income streams. So all the ones I just listed, aside from YouTube video monetization, all the ones I just listed are pretty active revenue streams. They're not passive, meaning you can't just let them kind of sit and make money overnight, because everything I'm creating for all of those brands is custom and requires a lot of communication. I'm working on making some more passive income streams, so like products or ebooks or, you know, how-to guides or things like that. So I'm considering that for 2020. Next, I want to talk about saving money and kind of what I do once I get my paychecks. It's pretty important, I think, for me to share that as a content creator, as a freelance designer, I'm not paid a very set amount each month. I'm paid every 2 weeks by my management, but it really varies on how big those paychecks are, depending on what deals I've done recently, depending on how long it's been, because each brand actually has 30 days to pay me after we've done a deal. So there's that. And then also with my clients, the same thing, they have a month to pay me, and sometimes, you know, I have more jobs than others. Some projects end at different times. So the way that I manage my money and budget kind of looks a little bit different month to month. But a pretty good rule of thumb I've been following for some time now, I believe this actually was either created or just popularized by Senator Elizabeth Warren. It's the 50-30-20 rule, which under this rule, basically 50% of your earnings goes towards your essentials, goes towards your needs, like your rent, like your food. Then 30% goes towards your wants, so things that you don't necessarily need, like buying a new sweater or maybe going on a little weekend trip, or I don't know, things like that. Kind of more so wants versus needs. And then 20% of the money should go into your savings or towards paying off debts, loans, things like that. So aside from the 50-30-20 rule, I also have some other tips of how I save money. The first is budgeting, which honestly was a very scary word to me about a year ago, because mostly, I hate to say it, I was just kind of lazy. And, you know, I was hearing people having all these spreadsheets and really, you know, making Excel docs about it. And I was like, that's a little bit unnecessary. I definitely have a good read on my budgets and, you know, how much I'm spending on food and, you know, clothes and all these different things. And then I was looking more at my bank account and I was like, wait a second, I really am not budgeting well. I really have no idea how much I'm spending on all these things because it really adds up, and you think that you're only buying like 2, drinks at the bar, and then you look at your credit card the next day and you're like, oh my God, it's just one of those type of things. You really don't know how much you're spending until you sit down and make budgets and stick to them. So I have this app that I actually recently downloaded that has really changed the game for me. It's called Empower. Here's what it looks like. It's this really pretty coral color. I love the design of it. Not shocking at all that the first thing I have to comment on is the design. The app's design is actually beautiful. Love the fonts, love it. Finance stuff is not something that comes easy to me, so Empower actually makes it super easy and straightforward to set budgets, and color-coded, I will add. It all just makes sense to my very visual brain. I have some budget trackers. I have 8 budget trackers right now. Of course, right now things are looking a little bit strange because I'm home and I'm not really spending money on food or things. I have a bit of a Postmates obsession. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be fully transparent about this. It's just so easy, and New York has the best restaurants on Postmates. So I set a budget tracker to make sure that when I'm back in the city, I'm only spending $60 a week on Postmates, and that is it, which, believe me, that's not that much compared to how much I have spent in the past. So I'm trying to limit myself there. I have a shopping tracker, I have a personal care tracker, so things like waxing, things like different medications that aren't on my insurance, things like that. Then I have business expenses, which is actually huge for me as a freelancer. Uber, which I honestly don't take that often, but I still have to have that on here. Groceries, and then gifts, donations, things like that. And of course, dining and drinks, which is the first one. So that makes 8 for now. I'm going to be continuously kind of adding trackers as life goes on. I set a monthly spending limit for myself, and it tells me how much I have left to spend. It sends me push notifications when I'm close to hitting my max on a budget tracker, things like that. I also get 24/7 push notifications on my purchases, on when bills are due, so I don't miss any bills. It also tells me when my paychecks come in, so I always know when I'm getting paid by my different clients and by my manager and things like that. It also really keeps an eye on your money. So for example, one of my monthly bills that I have on auto pay is Adobe. So for all my different Adobe programs, so like Photoshop, InDesign, all that stuff, which is essential for me as a graphic designer, I didn't realize actually until recently, for some reason, things got messed up and I was paying for it twice. And Empower picked up on that and said, hey, you're paying, $50 more than you usually pay, kind of prompting me to look into it, and I realized that I was accidentally getting billed twice, which is not ideal. My next favorite thing besides budgeting that Empower does is they have a live 24/7 financial coach that's there to help you answer any questions. You can just shoot them a text, and it could be the stupidest question, and believe me, I've asked a lot of stupid questions. So yeah, I really love using Empower. It's a great app, and you guys can get started actually for free for 30 days. They have a 30-day free trial, and then after that, it's just $6 a month to keep using the app, which I think is totally worth it in the long run. I'll have the link down below to where you guys can download and get started with Empower. I highly recommend it. Some other ways that I've been saving money, which some of these were very painful for me to start doing, but very important nonetheless, because there's certain ways that your money is just being sucked from you and you don't even realize. Even just one weekend out in New York, going to a couple bars, it really adds up. Just, buying a $20 cocktail and then another $20 cocktail and then, drunk eating after that, it really adds up. And so I've had to be very smart about where I'm spending my money, and I've actually been able to save money in certain ways by doing the things I'm about to share with you guys. The first one that's been super helpful is when I'm in the city, taking the subway over Ubering, which I actually, when I was living in Hell's Kitchen, which was further up in, the New York geography of things, there weren't any convenient subway lines that really took me anywhere I needed to go. So I was kind of forced to either walk somewhere, which would take me like 45 minutes, or Uber. So luckily now that I've moved downtown, there are so many different subway lines. I can really go anywhere by taking the subway. So I really rarely Uber now, and it's become super easy for me to learn the subway. A subway swipe is only $2.75, and the only time I won't take the subway and I'll Uber instead is when it's super late at night and I get nervous kind of going home by myself, which I think is important. It's an important investment at that point to take an Uber if it's super dark and like 4 a.m. and I'm by myself going home. So the next thing was kind of painful for me to enact, but I've gotten more comfortable with it over time, and that is making my own coffee at home. You guys know I've had a Keurig for a very long time. Even in college, my first dorm tour, I had a Keurig, but honestly, I rarely used it up until this past year, because there's just something about going to a coffee shop and getting a coffee, them calling your name, handing you a coffee. You know, I just loved that concept until number one, I realized how bad it is for the environment, and number two, I realized how expensive a coffee is in New York. So now I make my own coffee at home. I do the medium roast Starbucks little K-cups, put it in my Keurig, make myself a cup of coffee at home, put a little sugar in it, or just drink it black. And it's fine, you know, it does the job, and I've learned to love it. I've learned to appreciate it. I'll still get a coffee if I'm going out to lunch with a client, or, you know, going to a brunch with my friends or things like that. But, you know, on a daily basis, I'm no longer buying coffee out, which has been such a huge money saver. I didn't think it would make that much of a difference, but truthfully, I am saving so much more a month because I cut out, you know, buying coffee out every day or every other day. Another thing I've been doing is I haven't been waxing nearly as much. I go get my eyebrows waxed, I think honestly at this point, once or twice a year, which sounds crazy to some people. It would have sounded crazy to me about 2 years ago when I was waxing every 2 weeks. I've actually learned to embrace the bushier look to my brows. It's kind of a style preference now, first of all, and also I just pluck more, which I know is painful, but waxing can get really expensive and it's kind of unnecessary. I feel like a bikini wax in the summer is sometimes something I'll splurge on, you know, every once in a while if I'm going to the beach or something, but for the most part, I don't really do waxing anymore. I use Nair on my upper lip and I just pluck my, you know, little sparse brows, and you know, for the most part, I'm kind of embracing my hair, you know? So waxing is another thing that I've cut out, and again, has made a huge difference. Also, I mean, this kind of goes without saying, I'm not getting a ton of spray tans anymore. I used to get a spray tan every 2 weeks in college. You guys might remember how tan I used to be. And I also don't really buy as much makeup anymore because I kind of have found over the years my tried and true products, and I don't really experiment that much, which I don't know if that's like maturity or laziness, you know. I really only experiment when people send me things, truthfully, and I'm kind of forced to try them. So another thing I've been doing is selling my clothes at secondhand shops in New York. So I sell a lot of my clothes at Buffalo Exchange, which is a great secondhand shop. They do it differently than some other secondhand shops I've worked with before. Worked with as in like I bring my clothes there, and they give you money up front. So they don't wait until your piece sells, for example. They'll just give you like 30% of each, you know, each piece's selling value right up front. So, you know, a couple weeks ago when I went, or I guess a month ago now when I went, I made almost $400 off of like a ton of clothes, yeah, but you know, stuff that would have just been sitting in my closet, I made $400. Poshmark is awesome too, of course, but I honestly don't have enough free time to constantly be doing Poshmark and like just the logistics of all that, so I don't really do Poshmark. I'll just drop off my clothes at Buffalo Exchange, which is super easy, and you know, honestly, I'm lazy. So another thing I did to save money was canceling my overpriced gym membership. I went to Equinox for a little over, I'd say 6 months, and I actually got my membership when I was working at L'Oreal. They gave us half off because they had a partnership or something, and then as soon as I quit L'Oreal, they kind of asked me, you know, do you want to continue Equinox? Because if so, you'll have to pay the full amount, which is like $220 a month or something. And I was like, absolutely not, because, you know, yes, I did go, and it was nice. It was like therapeutic. I love the towels and the scented products in the bathroom, but was it enough for me to pay $200 a month? A lot of it was me going to run on the treadmill, which I can run outside. I can do different workouts in my apartment. I now work with Dance Body, so I do their workouts online and I don't have to leave my apartment. So I've just found different ways that I can work out and exercise. Something else my friends and I have been doing to really save money is pre-gaming before going out. Which I know people are like, of course you pregame, like no one wants to go to a bar sober, blah, blah, blah. But like really pre-gaming and only getting like one drink when we're out is super essential because, like I said, drinks in New York are like $20 a cocktail. For a nice martini, it's like $27 or something, which is absurd. It makes me want to throw up thinking about it. So yeah, we pregame heavily. I've learned how to make my own martinis, so we'll pregame at mine or at someone's apartment and, you know, take a bunch of shots and be feeling good and go out, get one drink, and be fine. Moral of the story is try to pregame before you go out. Also, beer is cheaper than liquor, so, you know, get a couple beers instead of a few martinis, and yeah, that's how you save money out. Something that I learned from Carly Christman, one of my favorite YouTubers / friends, is to start unfollowing people on Instagram or muting people if you can't bring yourself to unfollow them. that make you feel like you need to be frivolous and spend money on things you can't afford or that you really don't need, designer things, luxury things that really don't make sense for you. Because there's been, a few people that I really am influenced by, and I'm like, oh, they have this and they're my age and they live in New York, or they live, and I just think I justify it because, they did it. I feel like, oh, maybe I should have a nice purse as well, or things like that. So just being super cognizant of who you're following and what it makes you feel like. Follow people that make you feel good about yourself and what you already have, and investing in classic things you'll have forever versus things that are super fast fashion and will go out of style. So those are some huge ways that I've been saving money every month, but there's also some smart things I've been doing kind of in its own category of just being money smart that I also want to share. So the first one is having an emergency fund, which is especially important right now. I haven't dipped into my emergency fund yet, but I have one, which is important. How much you should have in that account kind of differs person to person. And actually with that app I was talking about earlier, Empower, I've kind of automatically been putting away money each week to contribute to my emergency fund. So, because you never know what's gonna happen, you never know, hospital bills are expensive, even with insurance and things like that. So super important to have an emergency fund. Second, renter's insurance, super important to have just in case something happens to your apartment. Make sure you have all of your belongings in said apartment insured. And at least for me with my apartment, it's super cheap to pay for renter's insurance, and I think it's actually probably one of the best investments you will make in your life. Get renter's insurance, you will not regret it. I did make a note that if you guys are interested in videos on debt and how to pay off debt, so student loan debt, just really any debts or loans or things like that, definitely check out my friend Asia Dang's videos. She makes amazing videos on debt. She's actually debt free. She had all this student loan debt and she recently paid it all off, which is super inspiring. So check out her videos if you have any debts and are looking to pay that off and kind of navigate this current space with all that. But yeah, I feel like that was a lot of information, but stuff that was probably, hopefully, kind of helpful for you all, and kind of gave you a bit more clarity on me and how I make my money, how I save my money, how I'm smart with my money, because I feel like not many people talk about this. Like, yes, there's a handful of people on the internet that are amazing for talking about this all the time, but I feel like more often than not, people are super vocal about certain things, but when it comes to money, they're super hands-off and really don't want to justify themselves, and it really does open the door for criticism. And so, I'm hoping by doing this, people will, appreciate my honesty and not bash me for it. But, here's hoping. YouTube is crazy. It feels good knowing that maybe my journey can help people, and that maybe some people will try freelance and try, making YouTube videos and different other, streams of income, especially when things are a bit crazy right now. I hope this video was helpful, guys, and I'll talk to you guys all in my next one, which I believe will be all about my freelancing life. It's in the works, so stay tuned for that, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.